welcome back. We are finally live again, and this is so incredible because today we're going to be designing a complete AR website, and this has been such a dream for a really long time because a lot of the principles that we're going to be talking about today are just stuff I've learned across the years, stuff I want to share on this channel for a really long time. And again, some of the things that I'm really excited about today are gradients from random normal colors that we've been using every single day and sort of taking them and then transforming them into something that looks like it came out of the literal future. Again, we're going to be taking a look at unconventional typography because monofonts aren't stuff you normally use in an average website, and yet we've figured out a way for them to work out here. So this is going to be totally incredible as well. And also we're going to be looking at a lot of really cool vectors that can have a lot of gradients in them, and that just makes it completely futuristic, instantly awesome vibes. So this is going to be one of the most incredible streams we've done in a really long time. I'm so happy you're here. Let's just jump into what we have planned directly. All right, so you know what, let me just make myself disappear. Alright, so this is the site that we're going to be designing today. I had to let it take up the full screen just for you to see the complete glory of everything that we're going to be designing. We did talk about this UI in yesterday's 1-minute UI design tips video in the 30 days of UI design breakthrough challenge. If you haven't checked out that yet, make sure to check it out. It is a must see. Just a 60-second long video talks about the 3 most awesome UI design principles in the whole wide world. This is the site that we're going to be designing today. One of the most interesting aspects of this site is that it uses these fonts, which are both variations of the mono font category, and these are something you normally see in a code editor or things on that front, but we're bringing them to mainstream websites, and that's incredible in my eyes. We're also going to take a look at this genius gradient which goes from cyan to purple and just takes dodger blue in the middle. It's just the most perfect gradient in the whole world. And we also have this gradient bordering our entire image, which provides us this weird futuristic angle, which I am in love with. This is the UI we're going to be designing today. This next part is the blog part, and this is my absolute favorite. If you look at the screen from this point of view, a gradient background with all of these really awesome looking cards, it's just one of the most incredible blog sections ever. I would personally make a portfolio website which looks like this, and it would just be one of the most perfect things ever. I love the way this one has turned out. It's so incredible. Has its brands which trust our product, has our vision, and then it has the subscription section, and then with that we end on a very modern footer note. I love the way it turns out, and it's just incredible, awesome, so pretty. It's just one of the best UIs we've ever done. Let's just jump into our UI. So the very first thing we need to do is obviously we need to create a new Figma file. If you don't yet have Figma, you're just going to go down to your browser and go to figma.com/downloads, download your Figma desktop app for macOS or Windows, and when you have that, you are ready to get started with this UI. So the very first thing we're going to do is obviously create a new design file. You're going to be greeted with a screen that sort of looks like this. You're going to click on plus and then either create a new design file if you don't yet have one, or you can just get a file that you're already using. I have a file that I want to use, and so I'm just going to stick with that. And now that we have a new file with us, you are usually going to be greeted with a page that's already been built out minus all of this text. By the way, these are live streams we just did before this UI, so you can check them out on the channel. Just click on plus to create a new page, and with that we are on the step 1 of creating this UI, creating a frame. So we're just going to go down here and we're going to click on in the center to create a new frame. We're going to make sure the width and height is set to 1920 by 1080 pixels, just because I want this to be a full screen UI. We haven't done a full screen UI in such a long time, and let me say it is long overdue for a full screen UI. Alright, this is something really interesting point that I want to bring out here is, since the colors that we're using here are really light in themselves, it's really important to have a really stark contrast going, even if you're building out for dark mode. So this cyan in itself is really, really light. The purple used here is really, really light, and even though it's not very noticeable, so it's really important to have a stark shade of contrast, which is why I'm going to have black in the background, pure black. You don't see me do this a lot, and I don't see me doing this a lot either, but for the current UI that we're building out, it just makes sense. All right, the very first thing we need to build out is the logo. The first part is the most interesting part for this UI, and I wanted to go to the logo first because it's just going to be super duper incredible. Check this out. Just watch really carefully, because this is going to be an incredible one. You're just going to take your pen tool and you're going to build out this random squiggle. Don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. Don't worry if it isn't the most beautiful thing in your whole life. And then you're going to increase the stroke, and the shape really doesn't matter here. And once you have a stroke, now you're going to change the color. So we're going to change this to a gradient. Make sure to sort of rotate, make sure to click on the rotate gradient button, and that's going to give you something that looks like this. And now we're going to change the colors. So I'm just going to go right here in the center of the colors, select a really bright shade of blue, and then I'm going to go to the end and then select a really bright shade of purple. And right now things are looking a little bit weird and blurry, so I'm just going to go right here in the middle and then choose a really nice shade of blue. If you're not entirely sure on which shade of blue to use, just type over here Dodger blue. This is going to give you a really nice shade of blue. For the cyan, you're going to use CYAN cyan, or you can select your own shade. And for this color, you're going to just type out purple, and then it's going to give you a really, really, really pretty purple. And with that, you have, you know what, just go with your own purple. That works better as well. And with that, you have this really nice gradient. The key here is this gradient is going to be reused over and over in this UI, so you want to save it. You can't create it every single time, because chances are you're going to mess up. Things are going to be presented weirdly just due to human error, and your UI is not going to be as simple and as repetitive and as following of the pattern as we need it to be, if that makes sense. So it is going to go down here and click on plus, and then you're going to create this gradient to be a permanent gradient color fill style. So we're just going to type out GRADIENT. You can type out any name you want, does not matter at all, but this is going to be the color we're going to be using now. All right, now that we have this in here, we need to also add the title. The title for this UI is going to be Aurora AR. Just a really pretty name, really pretty website. I feel like this is the most prettiest site, and I say this in every single damn video. I always say this. This is the most prettiest site we've done in a really long time, or perhaps in my whole career. And I feel like that just keeps on happening every single time you build out a new AI. So that is going to be my constant statement, repeated once again. And with that, we have this really, really pretty logo. I feel like you could push this to production. Like, this could be something that actually hits production. Check it out. It's just incredible. And now that we have this sorted out, we're going to create our image. I want to get all of our images and all of these colorful elements made first, just because I'm really, really happy with our gradient. It's just the simplest thing in the whole world and looks really, really pretty. We're just going to get ourselves a simple rectangle. Make sure the width and height are equal, and once they are, you're going to lock this in. And the reason we're locking this in is because we're just going to need this a bunch of times, and we don't want the width and height to mess up every single time we change them from right here. So this is going to be the width and height. You can change this around if you want. And then we're going to go ahead and open my favorite plugin ever, Lumi, and then we're going to search for a techie modern AR sort of website, and hopefully that gives us something nice. Let's just search for AR. Let's see what pops up. Let's try VR, because a couple of these terms are easy to find, and one of the reasons we're using such a stark gradient with AR or VR is because the permanent or continued design choices between VR and AR related UIs are always gradients. Like, every single time, and I feel like I should say this once again, if you look at the history of AR and VR and the way they've been presented in modern design, it's always has something to do with a gradient. So there's going to be a gradient in every single image that ever shows AR and VR, and that's just been the continued overarching theme overall. So when you have a UI which adds a stroke or which presents your whole UI in a complementary fashion, it supports your whole AR VR color scheme, I feel like that just works in your advantage, that works in your favor, especially when you're looking at a new website. So when you have a familiar pattern and you give all of the strength and all of the power to that familiar pattern, make it work, I feel like this presents AR and VR in a level of beauty that not a lot of other styles would be able to. And that's why I would always suggest, if the site has more to do with the AR VR side of things, stick with the gradient. Like, stick with your common nice gradients. It doesn't have to be a 3-color gradient, doesn't have to be very, very complicated, but you can't really go wrong with AR VR sort of websites when you have a lot of gradients, especially because the new and high images of this high techie vibe. And also I feel like this is also true with sort of mono fonts. So you have serif fonts, sans serif fonts, and fonts that look like these, which are mono fonts. And when you're going with AR and VR and stuff that's just coming up new and high techie, you can't really go wrong with gradients and color choices and mono fonts as font choices. These are just continued design patterns that have been here for a really long time from the starting of AR and VR, and they just complement everything really, really well. So that's just something that's been happening in the industry for a really long time, and something you can't really go wrong with as far as that is concerned. And now we're going to go back to our design file, and we're going to add a really, really simple stroke, make it thicker, make sure to add a border radius, do not miss the border radius, change the stroke's color to one of the colors that we've been having over here. And now that our stroke is actually visible, you can add a border radius. I feel like it could work well if it was edgy, but it looks quite cute with the whole gradient vibe, and it balances out the new tech with the cute vibe. And I'm just going to stick with it. It's just really, really pretty in itself, and this just provides such a nice balance to the image in itself. I feel like this is perfect poetic justice. All right, the next thing we're going to build out is this text section, which is going to have title, description, and call to action button. So let's just create a call to action button. The first thing we need to add is expanding horizons virtually. Expanding horizons, add a comma, virtually. And at this point, we have to think to ourselves, do we need to give it sentence case where every single word is capped? Do we need to give this uppercase, like where every single word is capital, or are we fine with this just being sentence case where the first letter is the only letter that's capital? And you can switch what that looks like out visually right here, and I feel like title case is good for us. So we're just going to increase the size, keep on increasing the size if you're not happy with the way it looks, and again you can always go back. And I feel like 128 is good, but we could go a little bit smaller. We can stick with 103 in here. Obviously we're going to make it even smaller. Increase the size if you need to. This is the thing with text size, you can always experiment around and find a better, more perfect version, and there is a thing as the perfect text size. That's always really difficult to find, but it's there. It's a weird opinion, but there is a thing as a perfect font size, especially when you have hierarchy of headings and titles and typographical hierarchy as a running principle. It's always there. And now we're going to add this description section. Again, now, this is the point where we're going to switch out the fonts. And here's something really interesting. In Figma, you have two different fonts that start with the word space, and they work really well together. Space Grotesque and Space Mono are two fonts that are just next to each other in the space category, and they just work really well with Space Grotesque being the title font, Space Mono being the description font. They just always work so well, and it's just easy with just sticking with the both of them. It's so awesome. And we're going to reduce the font size in here once again. Let's change this to 28, and obviously we're going to change the font family back to Space Mono. Make sure this is set to regular, And now we're going to copy all of this text. You know what, let's just you know what, let's just do this with a plugin. It's just going to be much simpler. I'm going to get the Lorem Ipsum plugin by DivWrites. This is my favorite fake text plugin as far as those are concerned. And then we're going to generate 5 sentences and then trim stuff out if we need to. Let's just get rid of a little bit of stuff because at some point it's a little too much. And then we're going to reduce the font size some more, select all of this text, and obviously reduce the font size. I love the way this is coming together. It's really simple, really elegant, and looks super duper pretty. Just super duper pretty. Obviously we're going to increase the line height once again, change this to say 18. Let's bring this right here, and also we're going to add a button. So let's increase the line height some more because this still needs a little bit of line height, and with that it looks extremely pretty. The next thing we're building out is a button, and this is going to be the shop now button. So we're just going to change the text to shop now. This button is actually a new style because we're going to also add a drop shadow, which is so awesome. One of the complaints that I have currently in the state of Figma is when you add a drop shadow, you can't set the drop shadow to be a gradient, which is not the best thing in my eyes. So we just had to stick with a bold color. You could have another rectangle just be behind it, but it becomes really difficult when you try to scale around with the shape, and it just scales very weird, and you have to be really careful with it. We might do it at some point, but just didn't seem relevant enough for now. We're going to make sure this has auto width, right click, frame selection, and we're going to add an auto layout. Make sure there's padding on the left and right, make sure there's padding on the top and bottom, and then obviously we're going to change this to white as the fill color. The color for the text is going to be black, just plain black, and obviously there's going to be a border radius. So we need to just select the entire frame rectangle, add a border radius, not a complete pill shape, just a little bit of a rounded shape because we're trying to match the vibe in here. And also we're going to add a drop shadow. Just go right here and add a drop shadow, and just make sure this drop shadow is set to a really nice offset from your rectangle. And the trick here is to make sure there is 0 blur, absolutely. And also the transparency is complete, and the color is just really a dark shade of blue. So we're just going to make sure everything is perfectly spaced, and you want your X and Y numbers to be exactly the same. And with that, we have this really pretty UI come to life. Check it out, you guys. This just looks really pretty. Let's just place this right here, and now we have a really nice looking hero section, just straight out of the real future. We're going to increase the width in here a little bit more, and obviously we're going to get a different section with us as well. This is our blog section now. So we're just going to make this a little bit bigger. And now that we have this section almost ready with us, we're going to make sure everything is perfectly aligned in the center. Takes up the exact same width and height as our other containers. Just make sure it's perfectly aligned in the center. And also the fill has to change, which is going to be great because we're going to set it to the exact same gradient which we've been using. And now we're going to add another card. So this is just going to be a simple frame. But before we do that, there is going to be a title and a description. Must not forget about the two of those. So we're just going to go right here, get a title, and also we're going to get a description, copy and paste them. And the trick here is to make sure everything is aligned in the center, which is something people forget all the time, and it's the biggest mistake ever. Alright, now we're going to change the text. I'm just going to copy and paste the text. You can pause the video, type it out if you want to, but it just looks really, it will take a lot of time, and that's just going to bore the audience. Alright, now we're going to perfectly align this and place this in the center. You know what, let's reduce the font size some more, and 86 looks nice. And now we're going to change this description text to dive into a world of color and innovation. This site looks incredible, and I will say it 100 different times because it's one of my proudest works ever. It's so pretty, like so entirely pretty. It's incredible, truly incredible. Alright, we're just going to place this right here, and obviously we're going to create a card. Let's just make sure this is a little bit bigger, and obviously we're going to create a card. So this card is just going to be a simple frame, Nothing complicated about it at all. The fill is going to be white, which is a must have, constant, important topic which you could not forget, which is going to place this right here. And obviously there's going to be a border radius, because border radiuses are something we're just keeping in this entire UI. What do you guys think about this UI? Just type up your opinions in the live chat. Like, it would be so awesome to see what you guys think, because I know I say this every single time I'm here doing a live stream, but this is just so incredible. It's one of the best things I've ever made. All right, now we're going to add text, which is just really simple. And also there's going to be a little bit of an image. So image is going to take up half of the space, which is going to make sure that is inside of here. And right now you might notice this image is going outside of our frame, but we want it to be completely rounded off. Instead of working with this image, worrying about it, we're going to make sure this image is inside of the frame, which is the card. So where is the card? This is the card, this is the frame, and we're going to make sure this is inside of the rectangle. Make sure the frame is set to clip content, and with that the image is going to crop out automatically, which is great news. Now we're going to run the Lumi plugin. Hopefully it gives us something nice for, let's do AR, and hopefully that gives us something really nice. You know what, I'm just going to place any image I find in here, because it's going to take a lot of time to just get the perfect image. But you can find any image you like, or you can find the images that we've just been using in the Discord group. Go join the Discord group, link in the description. And now we're going to type out this text, where imagination meets technology. We're just going to go right here and type out description, and then we're going to reduce the font size, obviously. So the primary concern here is just to change the font style. So we're just going to reduce the size here a little bit. This is going to be 20, and obviously we're going to make sure that the font weight is set to regular. Let's just get for ourselves this text just really simply. Copy it, and I feel like we should reduce the font size a little bit more. So we're just going to reduce this to 14, and obviously change the text here. You know what, let me just paste it here and match the style that we've been using. I feel like we could increase the font size. I'm always struggling with getting I have this OCD in my brain where it's just always, I can make this better. And it's a never-ending struggle. It's truly never-ending. This is going to be the next thing we're building out. It's again I would like to point out here, the fonts that we've used here are really quite surreal. So this is space mono, this is space mono, and this is space mono. But the titles, all of the titles are space grotesque. So both of these are space fonts, but the descriptions of any sort are space mono, and then the titles are space grotesque. Alright, now we're going to create for ourselves this title, which is in space grotesque. Let's just copy it, and then we're going to go back and paste it here and match our styles. Change this to, you know what, this has to be space mono. Why is this space grotesque? We're going to change this to space mono because this is a description, and also increase the font size because why not? Let's bring this up to 24. If it looks like it's too much, you can obviously send it to a different line, and obviously change the line height to auto, which is a great point from where you can start changing things up. And now we're going to make sure it's just right here. Add the font weight. So we're just going to increase the font weight to be regular, and then we're going to add 2 more of these. So we're just going to copy them, paste them once again. And now we're going to paste experience the magic of AR like never before. So we're just going to copy this text and paste it here and match the style. I feel like we need to reduce the font size a little bit now, because why not? We have been using the same exact font size, and when your content exceeds the line space which you're thinking of giving it, make sure to align it to the left, make sure to let it escape to the next line, and then we're going to have one final button in here which says get started. This sort of functions as your call to action button. The call to action in here isn't very visible, so I feel like we should add an underline or something, just so that we are sure of this being the call to action button. And now that most of it has been covered, let's take our image, send it above, and also make sure the frame takes up the complete amount of space. And with that, we have this really nice looking card, and I'm really proud of the way it looks. And now that we have this ready with us, it becomes sort of a reusable component. So we can copy and paste it as many times as we like, and we can just reuse it, change all the contents in it, and it's going to give you a really nice reusable piece. Let's just shift both of these down a little bit because I feel like we could use a little bit of spacing at the top. And with that, we have these 3 really nice looking cards. And wow, this looks actually quite nice. We also need to have a little bit of a stroke happening in here, so we're going to select all of our cards, make sure to group them together, add an auto layout just so that everything is perfectly aligned in the center, and then add a stroke. Nope, not here. We're going to select each individual element by pressing on shift, and then we're going to add a stroke. You can also add a drop shadow, but a stroke would be a good effect at this point. And then we're going to increase the stroke width, so this can go up to 2 or 3. Let's bring this up to 3. Done. Check it out. This looks really pretty. This truly looks incredible. And the next thing we're building out is trusted by leading innovators. So we're just going to bring that up next. Again, I want to make sure this frame is big enough to accommodate all of the different elements that we're making today. This is super duper incredible. All right, let's just create a different frame. Make sure it takes up the entire width and height, and obviously add trusted by leading innovators. The reason I'm really excited for this section is because we're going to type out actual text with the fill of a gradient. So this is something new on this channel. Trusting by leading innovators. And now we're going to reduce the font size, obviously. Just take this font size and we're going to reduce this. Bring this right here, and we're going to make it a little bit bigger. Let's bring this up to 48. And now we're going to just place this right here. Make sure everything is perfectly aligned. You can let it be black, or alternatively you can change it to this gradient. And the reason I'm changing this to a gradient is because the background has to be black anyways, and so a gradient would just work better. All of these brand images you can actually find in the Discord group. Make sure to join the Discord group from the from the description. You can find the link to the world's greatest design community there. You can just get this exact same PNG of all of these different brands. Just place them right here, everything perfectly aligned together. Make sure to press the Alt key. That's going to show you the amount of spacing on either side. 196 is on here and 178 is on there. So we're just going to shift it out a little bit more just to make sure we have the exact same spacing with us. Let's just shift this about a little bit more. Done. And with that, you know what, let's just bring this in here for 2 more pixels. This is going to give us 178 on one of these sides, and then the other side is also going to have 178. Perfect. The next section we're building out is our vision. This is just really simple. One simple single frame. So we're just going to build this out right here. Change the fill to the gradient which we've been using. Make sure this is out of our other sections, and really simply have a title and description in here. So this section does look complicated but is actually really simple. We're just going to copy and paste it and bring these text boxes right here. And now I'm just going to copy some of our text. The true play in here is just the font sizes, and we're just going to change the font size a little bit. So let's just go back and paste in here and match our styles. So the only I feel like the only thing we need to change here is the font size. This is set to 86 currently. Let's just, you know what, font size is fine. Font size is fine. I was just worried about nothing. The true font size we're changing here is of this section. So we're just going to go right here, paste it here and match our style. And now we're going to reduce the font weight to regular, and obviously increase the font size to, let's do 48. And with that, let's just make sure everything is perfectly aligned in the center. If it isn't, make sure it escapes to the next line, or you can reduce the font size a little bit more. This looks good. Press this button to make sure everything is perfectly aligned in the center. And with that, we have a really nice looking UI. This actually looks quite nice. we're back. The next section we're building out is subscribe for exclusive updates, and this is going to be like the final two sections. So we're just going to go over here and obviously increase the size of the frame a little bit more. Very simple stuff. And now we're going to build out the last two sections. I feel like it's really important at this point to differentiate between the two sections we're building out. Let's just get our pen tool out in here, and we're going to create a horizontal line. Very simple stuff. Let's just change this to white. Make sure it's perfectly aligned in the center. And then we're going to type out all of this. So this is just really simple stuff. Title, description, call to action button, and then one more section. So we're just going to get that in here. Let's just get the title and the description and all of these other elements. Copy and paste them. Bring them down to our last section. We're going to place them right here, and this is the point where we're going to start changing the inner contents. Nothing much needs changing. You just have to change the inner contents. So we're just going to copy this text, pause the video, and just type it out if you need to. We're going to copy all of this text, and obviously we're going to change the font size for the title a little bit because it is a little bit oversized. Let's just make sure this is a little bit smaller. Done. Let's just select all of them, group them together. Make sure there is an auto layout just so that everything is perfectly spaced. And we're going to create this email section as well. So we're going to change this to say subscribe now. You know what, we had this button in mind where the gradient was the background color, but I like the button that we have more. I'm just going to stick with it. Subscribe now. This is the most beautiful part about creating a button with auto layout. It just sort of increases in width and height depending on the space that your text actually takes. And now we're going to make sure that the auto layout is just removed entirely, because we have to have another element in here, and I feel like it'd just be easier if we didn't have that at all. Let's just change this to say enter your email. We're going to change this text to have a gray color, and with that we're going to make sure the drop shadow is also set to a gray, just so that you can add a little bit of text in here. And make sure it's not too light, otherwise people are going to think that this is sort of disabled, which is not what we want. We want this to be accessible entirely, and with that we have this really nice looking subscribe for updates section. And finally we're going to build out this next section, which is just a simple frame, adding a fill, changing the gradient, obviously taking the group in here and making sure everything is just perfectly spaced. Make sure this is out of our frame. Oops, what happened? Let's add a little bit of a border radius, because this would look really complete if we had a border radius. And now we're going to create a little bit of an icon, a couple of icons, title and description. So just go back to Iconify, which is the nicest plugin ever if you want to get icons and get all of our other icons in here as well. Let's get a bar graph. Let's just drag the first icon we can. Reduce the width and height. Make sure it isn't too small. Put this right here. Change this to white. Add a title and description. This is our description, and I feel like I'm just going to stay with it. Let's just get the title in here. And we've changed the font size obviously. and we're going to also get our description in here as well. Let's reduce the font size a little bit. Make sure it takes up the entire width. Press shift and group all of them together by pressing Ctrl G. I'm going to copy and paste. Oops, we're going to copy and paste this once again. And you can obviously change out each individual one of these if you'd like, but I feel like this is enough for now. We're just going to get this, oops, we're just going to get this one final time. We can add an auto layout to adjust their spacing as well. This looks quite nice. And now we're going to finally have the last two links right here with us, which is copyright 2024, all rights reserved. I'm just going to copy the text really simply. Make sure to add a text box, and we're just going to paste it here and match our style. Just really simple stuff. We're also going to get two other links right here, so we're just going to go here and copy it twice. Let's change this to say terms, and also we're going to change this to say privacy. Now that we have the both of these, we're just going to group them together in an auto layout and make sure there is a really small amount of space between the two of them. Why is there a lot of space in the between the two of these? What is going on? I feel like we just pressed the wrong button somehow. Let's just let them hug contents, and then obviously we can adjust the spacing in between them. And I feel like that's pretty much it. I'm going to go back to the top and just present it completely. This is the complete UI that we've built, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just switch to full screen mode, and I'm just going to remove myself from the screen. This is the complete UI we've built, and it's just really pretty. Looks really incredible. Check it out, you guys. This is so awesome. It's just so nice in itself. Like, you could change all of these elements, have this as your personal portfolio, have this as one of your portfolio projects. It just looks so incredible. I'm going to share this prototype with all of you watching, and this link is now going to be in the live chat. Alright, and with that, check it out. We've built out a really nice UI. This is one of this has been really nice as a stream in here, coming live to you and sharing this UI with you. I will see you next time. Until then, keep designing, and I'll see you around.